sex is one of these things where men are just expected to know what they're doing.
Your work is predominantly around bedroom coaching, sex coaching. You were a porn star, a male escort.
Take what I'm teaching and apply it to your marriage, because one of the biggest problems that I see on my end of things, at least, is that a lot of long-term relationships or marriages end up in a situation with a dead bedroom. I try my best, at least, to dissect that and help fix that from my understanding of male-female nature and my understanding of sexuality.
For the average man that's just trying to get through, like, what are you seeing?
It's impossible. The expectations of the average woman vastly exceed who the average man is.
Would it be fair to say that you are a healthier version of the Andrew Tate type guy?
I have a very different approach to him.
Yes. Some of what he said is disgraceful.
I don't think what he says is any more dangerous than what mainstream media talks about, if I'm being perfectly honest. If a guy has a problem with like erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation, the last thing he's going to do is talk to his friends about it. It's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
Well, that's kind of the gap that I fill. I look at myself like an older brother. You could have that conversation with your brother.
Yes, you could.
You could, if he was sort of an older brother who's a mentor.
If he wasn't a moron.
If he wasn't trying to be a dick.
Hi, and welcome to the New Mind podcast. I wanted to just quickly ask you a big favour. I know everybody does this these days, and I am joining the gang. I'm going to ask you at the beginning of this episode to please subscribe to this channel. I am very slowly growing my channel, and it's been lovely over the last few weeks to see so many new subscribers. But by paying attention to other people, I've realised I need to start asking. I need to grow the channel. When we grow the channel, we attract better guests, and the quality can improve week on week, month on month. Now, I'm very lucky that I've had some amazing guests so far, so I can only imagine the guests I'm going to be able to get if you lovely people will hit that subscribe button. Now, enjoy the episode. So, Stirling, it's a pleasure to have you here first. But I think also for a lot of people that know me, and certainly those that know you that don't know me yet, if they see some of my content, and for the watchers and the listeners of this episode, when they see your content, they might question how the two of us are here and why.
Right.
Because your work is predominantly around bedroom coaching and sex coaching. But historically, you were a porn star, a male escort, and you were a single guy, a bull, that sort of made it into the swinging scene. That was your intro into the world of sex, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Prior to that, you had been, in your words, not mine, a bit of a hippie.
Correct.
And you'd done a degree in pharmaceutical chemistry. Is that right?
Organic chemistry,
yeah. Sorry. And so you went from being this kind of hippie degree in chemistry, doing all sorts of interesting things there, to then becoming the guy that you are today. And for those that do follow me and know me, they'll know that very recently I put out an episode with my good friend, Dr. Charlotte Armitage, on the Bonnie Blue situation. Not so much about her, but on the way the world is going in terms of porn. But you feel differently about your career now from what we've spoken about very briefly. So there's loads to unpack.
Yes.
And there's loads to go into. But I also don't want to take away the validity of some of the work that you're doing. So we'll come to that, because, again, that might be a question mark for a lot of people. But I think there is validity in what you're doing. And I think if anyone's going to do it, it's somebody that's been in the industry and that kind of knows the good, the bad, and the ugly, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get a lot of pushback on that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Tell me about your experience, actually, because obviously the work you do is different. It's not, and I must say, as a side note, you are an entrepreneur as well. It's not just the sex coaching. That's one of the strings of your bow, but you've got many strings. However, this is what people will see you talk about the most, I imagine.
Correct.
So, first of all, I'd kind of be interested in terms of your responses or reactions to your content, what is the general consensus?
Well, for most of my content, people actually agree with it.
Yeah.
And most women agree with it.
Yeah.
Oddly enough.
Yeah.
I tend to get more private DMs
Yeah.
from women than from men.
Okay.
Even though my content is primarily as we're talking right now, my content is primarily targeted at men and helping men improve their sex life, their bedroom performance, these kind of things. It's a lot of women who DM me
Yeah.
and say, thank you, or my husband or my boyfriend has watched your stuff, taken your advice, and now our sex life is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, or I get both men and women saying I've saved their marriage.
I mean, that's some kind of compliment.
Yeah, it's the biggest irony is that I'll get, I guess you could say, open-minded Christians saying you're doing God's work
Yeah.
by helping marriages.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'll get a lot of hate on Twitter, YouTube, etc., from Christians who don't quite understand my background and, more importantly, my message and where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
when I say, retired and repenting from being in porn, and they think that I'm trying to push this sort of, I guess, more of a degenerate thing
Yeah.
on people. And my response to that is kind of, people can take the content, the advice I'm giving, and apply it to their own personal situation.
Yeah.
I'm not telling anyone to go out and be degenerate.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm trying to tell people the opposite, actually.
Yeah.
If you have a loving marriage, fantastic. Take what I'm teaching and apply it to your marriage, because one of the biggest problems that I see on my end of things, at least, is that a lot of long-term relationships or marriages that end up in a situation with a dead bedroom.
Yes. Couldn't agree more.
And okay, well, we need to figure out how to fix that. If we want people to have long-lasting, happy relationships and marriages, well, wouldn't it make sense to try and analyze why they're falling up, why the bedroom is becoming a dead bedroom, why that's falling apart, why the sexual intimacy between two committed people is falling apart? And I try my best, at least, to dissect that and help fix that from my understanding of male-female nature and my understanding of sexuality and what sex actually means to people. So, yeah, I'm a bit misunderstood by some, but that doesn't bother me. So I try to keep pushing through.
It's fascinating because I think because of the way I don't want to keep mentioning just Bonnie Blue, but she's one of many, many people that are pushing a narrative about sex that's, I think, unhealthy. And because I find this hard to say, and I'll be interested in your point of view. As you know, and as many people know, I come from a history of childhood sexual abuse, and a lot of the people that listen to this have either got an interest in how to overcome chronic trauma, or they've had some kind of sexual abuse or sexual difficulties themselves. They might feel that they can't express themselves sexually. They might feel that the narrative around sex at the moment, particularly where women are, sleeping with over 1,000 men in 24 hours, apparently, that isn't a healthy way of, for most of us, not a healthy way of looking at sex. It devalues intimacy, and it devalues, I think, the sacredness of that. Again, I know you were in the swinging thing, but I think it's really important to have those core values first before you start to explore the rest of the world and your body. And whether that's core values from a moralistic point of view through the family or through the church or just generally in society, I think that's really important. And I think a lot of children now are growing up with phones in their hands or devices in their hands. They're getting access. I know things have changed ever so slightly in terms of the laws of being able to access porn and so on, but it's easy to bypass if you're a young person. But they're able, from the age of 6, being able to access porn and all of these things that are really worrying for the development of the male system as well as the female system. And then there's someone out there, glorifying what is potentially quite dangerous. So because a lot of the conversations that you have, or a lot of the coaching that you do, is around being dominant in the bedroom, I'd be interested in how that becomes a safe and happy ending, so to speak, for the marriage that's been deficient of sex.
Good question. So the problem that, as I see it, right, is we've ended up in a situation which is actually kind of sexually sterile.
Yeah.
Ironically, sexually sterile.
Yeah.
Because you've got, women, like you say, a Bonnie Blue, a Lily Phillips, who insert anyone here, right?
Yeah.
Who is hyper sexualizing themselves. And then on the other side, the male side, you've got young men, boys, being exposed to pornography from a very young age.
Yeah.
And it's omnipresent.
Yes.
Right? It's on their phone all the time. It's accessible all the time. And not just that, it's on. If you look back like 20, 30 years, like TV is a lot more sexualized, music video is a lot more sexualized, advertising is a lot more sexualized. It's not just the accessibility to porn.
Yeah.
But it's the accessibility to porn that has made pornography or sexualization in general more pervasive throughout all of society.
Yes.
Right? So what that results in, though, is for a lot of young men, it's almost a desensitization to the female form. It's a desensitization to sex in general.
Yeah.
And then you've got women who are being kind of indoctrinated with this idea of they have to be sexualized to get male attention.
Yes.
So, whereas before, maybe with my parents' generation or even my brother's generation, I'm younger than my brother by about 10 years. Like there was this gap where women could attract male attention without being sexual.
Yeah.
Right? The innate idea of the woman was attractive.
Yeah.
But now it's been so hypersexualized, pornographied, that young women have to feel like they have to at least dress more provocatively, wear shorter skirts, constantly have makeup on all the time.
Yeah.
Like, in a sense, pornographizing themselves.
Yeah.
And I think the result of that is actually one where it's created this, what I said before, was this very sexually sterile relationship between men and women, because women aren't actually taught how to seduce a man in the way that men actually care about being seduced. And I can elaborate on that later if you want.
Yes, please.
But you've got this where women aren't actually, they're just being taught to hypersexualize themselves. That doesn't necessarily mean they're being seductive to men. And then men, on the other hand, are being bombarded with sexuality, so that sexuality has no impact on them anymore. Things, and what ends up happening is they have to go down these rabbit holes on pornography where they become more and more degenerate and more perverted to achieve that same physiological response of arousal.
Yeah.
Which leads to things like porn-induced erectile dysfunction. It's a
Of
very, very
course.
common thing for a lot of young men now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So it's weird where you have someone like, and the powers that be, the system we're currently in is inherently pro hypersexualizing women. Otherwise, you wouldn't have someone like Bonnie Blue or Lily Phillips blowing up on social media everywhere.
Well, not just social media. I mean, the Bonnie Blue thing was out on our mainstream broadcaster channel, Channel 4.
Correct. I heard about that. Yes.
Yeah, and that's where my conversation with the doctor came from, is that it was kind of like...
It's normalizing.
It's normalizing it. And it's making... Well, actually, a lot of advertisers wanted to pull out of that because they were like, actually, we don't want to be associated with this.
Right.
So I think we are seeing a slight pushback. But the problem is it's almost gone too far. And, because of the problems, genuine problems with erectile dysfunction in really, really young men, we're talking, mid-20s instead of mid-40s.
Yep.
And that's a significant shift if you look at the way that we are evolving in terms of procreation and all those things. And again, I think, if young boys as let's say 6, 7, 8 are getting access to porn, and this has happened, this isn't me just going, what if, where they're seeing girls being then I don't know I do know what we can do because it's what I do when it comes to sexual trauma, but I don't know what the generalized approaches in terms of families and schools in actually saying, we need to fix this, and very, very fast, because again, going back to the work that you do about being, dominant in the bedroom and so on, again, this is where I suppose some people might not understand what that means. So we
Yes.
need to cover that. But what do we do with these men? Because you must be attracting the men that are perhaps in their 30s, maybe even late 20s, I don't know, and maybe you have got those stats, but where they are already struggling with a one person relationship. And that's why I was quite interested in the swinging scene as well, because I know through my work lots of couples that have gone into swinging, and some of them are not in serious relationships, some of them are in long-term relationships. And actually, from my understanding, taking it back to you, the dom is perceived to be a very safe character in that scene, because the boundaries are set, the expectations are set, the signaling is set. So if someone doesn't feel safe, that there are clear, again, I haven't been in that scene, so I'm just from what I know, so there are clear defined rules.
Yes.
And so the women that I've spoken to that have had that experience said they feel safer than ever in that context. So tell me more about that.
Well, there's a lot to unpack
I
there.
know.
So from my perspective, right, there's, because my let's say the guys who reach out to me, right, they tend to fall into the age range, let's say like 25 to 40.
Wow, it's young as 25.
We can get, like, actually, well, I do get guys younger than that, but they're not, in terms of the sexual advice, they're more interested in, maybe more dating advice from my perspective, because they're trying to find a girlfriend, right?
Of course.
But the guys who are concretely looking for, sexual advice, it's 25 to 40. And there was a big shift with men in terms of dating and sexuality, which came about because of the whole Me Too movement, right? So you had a lot of, basically a generation of men who became afraid to interact sexually with women.
Yes.
Right? And this is a problem, because when men are afraid to be men in the bedroom, women don't feel safe with their men anymore.
Yeah.
There's a fundamental aspect to female sexual psychology, and maybe you would disagree with me here, but so please disagree if you do. But I think there's a fundamental aspect to the female sexual psychology that wants to be submissive to her man.
Yeah.
She wants to be able to look up to her man. Mm-hmm. She wants to be able to be led by her man, and feel safe in doing so, and feel safe in submitting.
Yeah.
Right? And when you've told men that they're all sexual abusers,
yes,
right, verbatim, like from the get-go, by default they are, right. And I fundamentally, from the male perspective, that's what the Me Too movement felt like, right, as someone looking out from the outside looking in. A lot of young men were told that, and so then they don't know how to interact with a woman in the bedroom in a way that actually satisfies her innate biology. Yeah. And this is where I come in with trying to teach guys how to be dominant in the bedroom, because I think fundamentally that's what women crave on a innate biological evolutionary level. And things like, the 50 Shades of Grey novel series and their movies and the success of both of those. Yeah. And not just that, but prior to that, my mother was reading Mills and Boon novels.
Of course.
As a kid.
I was reading them.
Right. Like, this has been there for a lot. People talk about 50 Shades of Grey like it's some new phenomenon. No. It's not really a new phenomenon. It's been there for a while. That was just very, very successful.
Yes. And not very good, if you ask me.
No, it was. If you ask anyone who was in the BDSM scene, who was a dom sub, they trash on it. They hate it.
Yeah, I bet they do. I mean, I thought it was pants, and I'm not in that scene.
So it was a caricature of that dynamic. But it was successful for a reason. It was successful because it taps into something innate in female psychology. Yeah. Whether that is flattering or unflattering, cool. I'm not here to debate that. Yeah. It is what it is. Like a tiger's got stripes. Is the way I look at it. Yeah. And to deny that is to deny a part of who we actually are as people.
Yeah.
And so I think when I try to teach guys how to be dominant, I'm trying to do it in a way that is safe, that is comfortable for the woman.
What does that look like?
Primarily. Okay, let me give you a really practical example. So you see a lot of pornography involves, erotic asphyxiation.
Yes.
Right? A lot of very extreme pornography involves that, actually.
Yeah.
And when a young guy is watching that and he sees a woman reacting positively to it on screen, he's like, well, does every woman like this?
Yeah.
How is he supposed to know if the woman he's with is going to actually enjoy this?
Yeah.
And now you could say, and a lot of sex therapists or marriage counselors, or let's just say therapists in general, would say, well, you have a conversation about it beforehand. And I'll actually disagree with that, because that destroys all sexual tension that is possible.
Mm-hmm.
As a woman, I would argue that you don't want to have to tell him what to do.
Very true.
You want him to just know. Mm. You want him to innately know where you're at comfort-wise. Mm-hmm. Okay? So this is a really practical example that I teach guys, and it's the hand test. So let's say, how do I tell if my woman enjoys erotic asphyxiation or not? Well, let's just start really practically by just placing a hand during the act of lovemaking, obviously. Let's just place a hand here. Just above, just below the neckline. Mm-hmm. Just place a hand here. And physically observe her body language. How is she reacting to this? How is she physically, emotionally, on her face, everything, her breathing, her eyes, her body language, everything about her. Observe, be observant, and see how she's reacting to that. If a woman has been through a scenario where she has been abused, let's say, and that has been involved, I can guarantee you'll see a very negative reaction from her by just placing a hand anywhere near that area. Yeah. Right? Cool. If that's a very negative reaction, then you do not do that ever again.
How do you manage that?
You now know.
Because for the boy, even in that situation, and I agree, that's a tentative way of taking those steps. But let's say he's 22 years old. How does that boy deal with a very negative reaction? Even if, like you say, it's just on her chest or on her shoulder, how do we then teach that boy to not, I guess, feel guilty, feel shame, or get angry? Because the other thing is, a lot of boys aren't equipped to deal with emotions very well.
They're not equipped to deal with the rejection.
The
sexual rejection.
So they might get angry and a bit dismissive of that. Is that part of your coaching as well, that you go into that?
I tell the guy, like, if it's for me, it's a clear sign of don't go there.
Yeah.
And understand that, respect that. It's like, cool. Like, she is not into that.
And
cool.
And how he manages that.
But there's a million different levers, so to speak. There's a million different buttons you can press sexually for a woman.
Yeah.
There's not just one button.
That's absolutely true.
Right. So, okay, cool. That's not her button.
Yeah.
Then we find a different one.
Does that ruin the moment, though? Because I can only imagine.
Well, that's why I try. That's why I think. Sorry to cut you off, but I think that having a verbal conversation about it is what would ruin the moment. This is kind of tying to what I was saying before.
You don't want to kind of pathologize sex.
You don't want to, in the middle of sex, you don't want to be in the middle of a therapy session.
No, you certainly don't want that.
Right?
Especially if you're a therapist, because that's just like work.
Well, that should work.
Yeah, you don't want that. But I guess my concern would be the girl might have, or the boy, especially if it's same sex, whatever, might have a reaction that's difficult for the person who's trying out these techniques to deal with, because at the first hurdle, he's now seen, depending on the reaction, some people just be like, I don't like that, and that's enough. But if she or he freaks out, then we've got a conversation that has to be had, because I guess that's gameplay over.
Yeah.
So how do they navigate that?
Well, that comes into it's a BDSM concept.
Yeah.
Of aftercare.
Yes.
And it's not even really aftercare at that point. It's like pre-care.
Yes.
Right. So you have to be the key thing for guys to understand there is, if you get this very, very visceral emotional reaction from this is pre-step.
Yes.
This is just testing the waters,
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
right? And you'll get this very emotional reaction from her. You should understand that this is actually a really good moment for you to come in and reassure her that you are safe.
Yes.
Like, you're the one that she can be vulnerable with.
Yeah.
Because if you're reacting to her, if you get a very let's say again this practical example, hand here, we're not doing any asphyxiation. We're just placing our hand near the area,
Yeah.
and engaging a reaction, and you're getting this very negative reaction. Well, this is an opportunity for you to reassure her that you are the guy she can be safe with.
And that's what I was looking for, really, because I think a lot of people would, like you say, boys, the rejection, young, perhaps not the older, more experienced
but
ones.
probably young guys, yeah.
Yeah. And then if they have that anger or frustration at that negative reaction, they don't know, actually, this is my opportunity to lean in and just use reassurance and just say, okay, we move on.
I mean, practically, what the thing that would immediately come to my mind in that situation would be to look her in the eyes, tell her everything's okay, kiss her on the forehead, and bring her in and hug her.
Yes.
Like, it's okay, cool.
And that's still part of the dominance. And that I'm saying that
But
very
yeah,
clearly.
you have to lead. Yeah, well, that's exactly correct.
Leading.
Because you have to lead her through that.
Yeah.
Because she's having an emotional reaction and she doesn't really know how to process it or what to do.
Yeah.
So it's as the guy who wants to be leading her through her sexuality.
Yeah.
Cool. Lead her with the reassurance. Lead her with that understanding that she's safe with you.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, I'll add something in here, which again might sound a bit crazy on the surface of it, but the ability for a man to demonstrate his capacity, emphasis on the word capacity, a man's ability to demonstrate his capacity for violence, right?
Yeah.
Is inherently what actually makes him feel safe to a woman.
Yeah.
Because a woman wants to be protected.
Yeah.
A woman wants to feel like she's secure and safe with her man.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to feel like he's some complete emotional wreck, or which would inherently lead to him being actually violent against her.
Of
right?
course.
But she also wants to feel like he can protect her from anyone who would be violent towards her. Right? So, and ironically, to do that, you have to demonstrate your capacity for violence.
Yes.
Which inherently means leading.
Yeah.
Inherently means being assertive. So if you're able to do that in a way that is, reassuring her and not being combative against her, right? So if she's having a very emotional reaction to something you did in the bedroom, rather than being butthurt about it and getting angry about it and being concerned about it, you need to flip that script on its head and be reassuring about it. It's okay. Cool.
And that takes a lot of confidence, I think.
Yeah, and I think I would agree with that. Yes, it takes a degree of experience to understand that.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things without trying to blow my own trumpet, one of the things that I do for guys is I make them come across as a man who has a lot more experience than he has.
Yeah.
And
Take it till you make it kind of thing.
It's well, if they understand it, then they're not really faking anything.
But they've just not done it before, maybe.
Yeah. It's theory versus practice.
Yeah.
Right? So, and sex is one of these things where men are just expected to know what they're doing.
That is true.
Without any knowledge, any training, any guidance, experience, because it's this really awkward thing for guys to talk about with each other. And this is, I think most people don't understand this. Women are a lot more sexual than in regards to conversation. Yeah. Women talk about sex with each other on a lot more graphic level.
Yeah.
And true. Detailed and specific level amongst women.
Yeah.
Than men talk about sex amongst men.
Yeah.
Men, when they talk about sex with each other, it's a very surface level bravado type conversation. It's not really in the weeds. It's not really talking about the mechanics and the specifics.
Yes.
And so because men are trying to, I guess, in a way, protect themselves, protect their reputation, protect their ego.
Well, it's a biological thing, I'd imagine.
Well, you don't
because you're trying to be the strongest of.
Well, no, okay, yeah. Well, that's a good point. No. If a guy has a problem with like erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation, the last thing he's going to do is talk to his friends about it.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
Well, that's kind of the gap that I fill.
Yeah,
is like I look at myself like an older brother.
That's nice.
for a lot of the guys, because
Yeah.
you could have that conversation with your brother.
Yes, you could.
You could, if he was sort of an older brother who's a mentor.
If he wasn't a moron.
If he wasn't trying to be a dick, right? If he wasn't trying to find some weakness and just attack it, right?
Yeah.
If he was an older brother who actually gave a shit about you,
Yeah.
cool. You could have that conversation.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys don't have that.
No, that's true.
So that's kind of how I try to be for a lot of young men.
See, now I get, and I think, I did already get this, otherwise we wouldn't be able to have this conversation. But now I think the audience are going to get what you're about.
Right.
It's not just sex coaching. It's not just about being dominant. It's about being safe. And it's about you taking the place of the safe older brother or whoever it is.
On the guy's side, yes.
On the guy's side, that can at least mentor them, I suppose, through those really difficult situations, which could end them being in trouble, actually, if they don't know how to navigate that.
Absolutely.
So
100%.
We're looking at, and I think it's really important to say here, you've mentioned the female psychology, but primitively, there are huge differences, not only, in terms of the way, I often reference this, but in the way that men have, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of sperm that you have cooking every day, from a young age, but it's a lot. It's a factory down there, isn't it? And from my understanding, because obviously I don't have testicles, not that I'm aware of anyway, but you need to release that fairly often, especially the younger you are. Maybe not every 5 minutes, but so I would imagine from a primitive aspect, things like noticing a place where you could release the little sperm that was there would be, a lot of girls don't understand a man noticing a woman that's beautiful on the beach or, walking down the street is his natural wiring to do what I guess he was supposed to do. But it gets mixed up with moral societal views, and I think women then get very envious, but we're more wired to be insecure because once we've been impregnated and we have the cubs or the babies, and the man is likely to then disappear, or he may not, the male, he may not be safe, we have to be more tuned in to safety. So you've got the male of the species that are procreating everywhere and the female of the species that are trying to stay safe, which fits in with everything you've said about the female psychology wanting to be safe, wanting to feel protected, whilst the male of the species may be, I'm not being very articulate here, but there was do you know Dr. Christopher Ryan? I'm surprised you don't know him. I think he's not as big as he should, but he wrote a book called Sex at Dawn. And it was
I'm familiar with that book though.
Right.
Yes,
so that's Dr. Christopher Ryan. I think it was him and his wife wrote it.
Right.
And I saw him on a podcast ages ago. This is before podcasts were really a thing. And he was talking about an experiment that was done with a bull and a cow. And basically the sperm count of the bull had decreased. So what they did is they rubbed a blanket or a towel on a new cow,
Right.
placed that over the old cow.
Yeah.
This is not being very well explained at all.
No, I get it.
But then he was all for it again.
That is sometimes called the Coolidge effect.
Right. Okay.
If you're familiar with that story, where I think it was Calvin Coolidge, American president, went to tour a cock farm, like a chicken farm.
Right.
And the farmer says to him, I think the Mrs. Coolidge asks the farmer, how many times a day does the rooster copulate?
Yes.
I mean, he said some very large number, multiple times a day.
Yeah.
And she said, well, tell Mr. Coolidge that. And Mr. Coolidge then turns to the farmer again and said, is that with the same chicken every time?
Yeah.
And he says, oh, no, it's with a different chicken every time.
Right.
And then he says, well, tell Mrs. Coolidge that.
Interesting. So
the Coolidge effect is basically the idea that male, and this is quite well studied, that male sexuality or virility, attraction spikes like with multiple females,
and that's
or at least exposure to multiple females.
And is it true as well with the cuckolding thing that part of that innately. For those that don't know what that is, it's where the husband or boyfriend is watching his partner have sex with another man, if I'm right. Yeah.
Yes, correct.
And that can actually increase his quality of sperm as well because of the competition involved.
That I've
Is
got
that fair?
that particular statement I've never actually heard before.
Right.
But the book Sperm Wars talks a lot about like the biology of the male reproductive system, so
Yeah.
the shape of the penis and ejaculate in itself.
Yeah.
So there's two really key factors there. The shape of the penis, the glands, the head of the penis is literally designed to be a plunger.
Right.
So, and this has been tested and verified, you can literally, like the head of the penis is actually designed to remove sperm from the vagina
Wow.
prior to ejaculation. So the concept there is that this wouldn't have evolved in humans if there was no sperm competition. If there wasn't, the crux of the situation is that humans are not innately biologically monogamous.
Yes.
So that there's probably going to be sperm competition in the vagina. So there's probably
Yeah.
going to be sperm there. So his penis is removing competitor sperm before ejaculating himself. The other aspect to the male ejaculate is that the beginning part of the male ejaculate is actually somewhat of a spermicide, if I remember this correctly.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, this comes from Sperm Wars, the book. And that would not have evolved in a scenario in which humans were 100% monogamous. So, like, that sperm is there, that spermicide at the beginning of an ejaculate is there to kill off rival sperm and then deliver his sperm to the vagina.
And then the other theory, when someone has an affair, like a man has an affair and he might have been with his wife for 20 years, they've not been able to have a baby, and then he has sex with a new woman and impregnates her straight away. Is there something about the newness of the vagina that allows that sperm to be of a better quality? If you go back to the Coolidge effect and...
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure how that affects the sperm quality. I can't necessarily see a mechanism how it would, because
is it
it's
just the excitement of
it's
it?
this
Maybe?
well it's still the same sperm, and sperm can take about 30 to 60 days to even like be made.
Right.
So there's quite a delay between like a sperm ready to impregnate
Yeah.
a woman versus it being built up in the testes.
Yeah.
It's quite a delayed response. I think ejaculate volume does increase though.
Right.
So perhaps
that.
it is just a volume.
So it's not the quality,
situation.
it's a volume thing.
There's just more of them there
Yeah.
to fight for that egg.
But whichever way it is, if there's any truth in that, which there may or may not be, I've just heard these things somewhere, and I always like to find out what someone who actually knows what he's talking about thinks. But it still says, like you say, that we're probably not designed within this ideal construct of marriage, and that seems to stem from more of a societal organization, or at least marriage where you only have sex with one person.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about that. So humans we're all actually subject to soft polygamy anyway.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like because truly monogamous animals in nature, they like pair bond with one individual for their whole life.
Yes.
And humans don't actually do that.
Yeah.
Very rarely.
Yeah.
Very rarely in the whole of society across all cultures on the world right now do we have a situation where it's a virgin male and a virgin female coming together and staying together forever, right? Even when we do have monogamous relationships, they're usually not the first monogamous relationship we've had.
Yeah.
Right? It's our second or third or fourth or fifth partner through our whole life, right? So that's a form of soft polygamy anyway. And then you have on top of that the fact that sometimes you have previous children to previous partners, right? But you've got a new partner and you're having a relationship with them or you're having kids with them, right? So it's a form of soft polygamy anyway.
Yeah.
Polygamy isn't necessarily like this idea of like you're having multiple partners at the exact same time, right?
Yeah.
When I talk about soft polygamy anyway. So we're not really as monogamous as we're given credit for. Now, having said that, societies do far better when it is monogamous. This is a certainty across cultures.
Yeah.
You always, like, the more stable society is one in which every man has a partner and they're not hyper competing for one another. What you do tend to find, though, and this is really interesting, and it's super interesting given our current societal situation right now, is that in societies where there is a massive like income discrepancy
Yes.
between top tier males, let's say that for a placeholder word, versus the average man, when there's a big difference in their level of resource gathering, right,
Yes.
aka income,
Yeah.
you tend to find women sharing that man more often, right?
Interesting.
So you get stable monogamous societies in a society where most men are middle class,
Mm.
right? But the societies we live in today in the West are not really, the middle class is being eroded,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you have a select group of people earning a lot of money,
Mm.
and the average man getting fucked. If I'm being perfectly honest,
Yeah.
he's not really making that much money.
Yeah.
And what is that? In that, I don't even think this is a conscious thing. I think this is just more of an innate biological thing for women. Women's response tends to be to share what we would call a high value man.
Yeah.
You just see that more and more and more. And now we've seen this in history.
Yes.
We've seen this in the past in very uh, inequitable. I don't like that word, but just for a placeholder,
Yeah.
inequitable societies in terms of resource gathering. We've seen this throughout history.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it again now in the West, where we've made this transition from being a very monogamous society across all Western cultures, by the way, like
Yeah.
England, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America, everywhere that was Western, all of Europe, right, was very, very monogamous for a very long period of time.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
quite
yeah.
equitable, but
Yeah.
the society was also quite equitable, had a big middle class.
Yes.
And now we're making this transition to where the middle class is falling apart. And what we're seeing in response on a sexual dynamics level is, on a male-female dynamics level, is women are abandoning this idea of like being with the average man. And
Yeah.
this is reflected in dating apps. We're seeing this everywhere. Women are abandoning that idea of settling for the average guy,
Mm.
and instead they're going to share a guy who has a greater access to resources.
When you say share, what does that mean?
It means they are either consciously or unconsciously okay with the idea that he has multiple women.
Well, this leans into another little story that I heard, and it was from a friend of mine who shall remain nameless, who is in the media circles. And he'd invited me to go to something with him, not as a friend, because his partner couldn't go. And he said, but I will warn you, you'll see a lot of faces that you recognize, and they will be with people that you wouldn't expect them to be with, maybe escorts, or they will be with their other woman.
The mistress.
Yeah. And basically what goes on in the club stays in the club. It wasn't a club, but that was the fact. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was just, I just want to warn you because some of these faces you might have placed with other people, and you just need to know. And so it was kind of like, I wonder how many of those women just are at home, don't want to go to these events. They're probably, I don't know, bored of the relationship, and have just accepted that for the lifestyle that they have to share the male.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I think a lot of women are not willing. They would rather give up. I'm being obviously very generalist here, but I think the majority of women would rather give up exclusivity to their partner than to sacrifice lifestyle.
Yes, which brings me on to another point, especially in the area that you're in. How does that affect the average man? Which is,
Makes things very difficult for the
yeah,
average man. Yes.
because we're talking about women that are now saying, I don't want, not all women, but you spoke about the dating apps. One of the things that comes up again and again and again now, and because I'm little, I don't really have this problem, but women that are taller, they want the 6'5" male with the broad shoulders and, the V waist and all of these things. And they're very specific about what they want on the dating apps, but they also want him to earn a certain amount of money and to have a certain lifestyle. And for the average man that's just trying to get through, like,
Yeah.
what are you seeing?
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Like you've got the expectations of the average woman vastly exceed who the average man is
Yeah.
consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're demanding a man who's above average in height, above average in income, above
Yeah.
average in looks, above average in social skills.
Yeah.
That's actually probably the biggest one of all that most people don't even understand.
Of course.
Because it's so intangible, like charm
Yeah.
and charisma and being social is such an intangible thing.
And I find charm really difficult to read because I always say this, if someone bought me flowers on a date, I'd immediately think, what do you want? You know,
Right,
I
right.
would be really I don't get where the line is drawn between love bombing and just being nice,
Right.
because that's another whole thing, isn't it?
I don't like those words like love bombing. I think I lump words like love bombing in the same category as words like narcissist these days.
Oh yeah, it goes hand in hand
Well, because
generally.
it's just this word that it's just a made up.
It's
Now
social
it's become
media.
this made up term. It doesn't actually mean anything.
Yeah.
Like it's not tangible. You can't like every woman's ex is a narcissist.
Oh God.
Apparently,
I mean, I covered this with Richard Grannon. Do you know Richard Grannon?
no, no, no. But
He
what, like
he's
3% of men are clinical
yeah.
narcissists in the whole population,
Yeah,
something like that? It's
we
like a
we
small
covered
number.
this. He's an expert in
Yeah.
that area, and he's done a lot of education around what narcissism actually is.
Right.
And I was saying to him, although I've just used that term, it was to get the point across
Yes.
quickly, is that it's such an overused term, and
Completely.
it's
Yeah.
destroying the actual real cases where someone is
Yeah.
coercively abused,
Yes. Yes. Yeah, well,
and
yeah.
it takes validity away from real
Completely.
abusive relationships.
Completely. Completely.
So I hear why you called that out, but for me, I guess that was flippant for me to say that, but you know what I mean,
Oh
like
yeah.
where
I didn't
charm
mean
and
to.
charisma
Yeah,
is.
I wasn't trying to
No,
insult
no,
you,
no, I know what you
but
mean.
charm and charisma is so it's so intangible because what's charming to one woman might not be charming to another woman,
Yes.
and it's like if you look at if you look at old Plenty of Fish data, you look at dating profile women. What are women looking for in a man? It's like I want a guy who's funny. What does funny mean to her
Yeah.
specifically?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean ha ha comedian funny. It doesn't, right?
No, it doesn't.
It also doesn't mean like dancing monkey funny,
No.
right? It means being able to evoke an emotion out of you.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
this is precisely why assholes do very well in dating. Because assholes, although there's nothing inherently innately attractive about the asshole himself,
Mm.
it's pure the fact that he is there's a few things here, but the fact that he's like uncompromising, he doesn't buckle under emotional pressure from others, but most importantly, the asshole is able to evoke an emotion out of a woman.
Yeah.
And that inherently makes him attractive.
Yeah.
Like women will date guys that tick all the wrong boxes for them.
Yeah.
If you were to sit them down in private and say, what do you want in a man? And they list off all this criteria,
Yeah.
they will date a guy who does not match any of those criteria. Or
Yeah.
they'll definitely sleep with a guy who
Yeah.
doesn't match any of those criteria,
Yeah.
but he evokes emotion out of her.
Yes.
And that's what I'm trying to communicate to a lot of guys in terms of like, being charming, being funny, being charismatic. What it means is being able to evoke an emotion out of her. And sometimes, unfortunately, even if that emotion is negative,
Yeah.
it is better than no emotion.
Yeah.
Because women will leave guys who are boring.
No, that's true.
They
That
could be
is
the
true.
nicest man on earth.
Yeah.
He ticks all the boxes. He on paper, he's perfect.
Yeah.
But he's just a stone cold wet fish. He is so milk toast.
Yeah.
He is so boring
Yeah.
that she just cannot get any juices flowing for
No,
him,
it's
if you know what
true.
I'm saying.
It's true. It's so
Right?
true. You have to have something about you.
Right.
And
An
if
edge to
edge.
you.
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot from when I try to communicate this to guys, especially guys who are maybe more autistic on
Yeah.
the spectrum, who don't quite
Yeah.
understand, because women will use language which is like, oh, he has a vibe to him.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean? That language is totally useless
No,
to
you're
the
right.
average man.
Yeah.
The
And to
average
the
man has no
autistic
clue.
man, you're right, because the autistic man takes things literally.
It's too long. He's
Yeah.
a hyper. Men on general are more logical, but
Yeah.
I know a guy who's maybe on the spectrum, which we're seeing a lot more of
Of course.
actually,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
are hyperlogical. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do you explain vibe to a guy
Yeah.
who doesn't understand social cues and social nuance?
Yeah.
How do you do it? Right?
I think that's such a good, valid point, because girls don't realize, again, there's all these differences in the sexes in terms of the brain function. We have two verbal centers, men have one, and we've got more white matter on average. You've got more grey matter, which is the logical bit. We've got more process, all those different
Yeah.
things. So I think it's really important to be as specific as you can without making it too specific. Again, we don't want to pathologize this, but, I think what I know of being a woman and speaking to women is that they want somebody who has got some emotional intelligence, a little bit of empathy. You mentioned about making them laugh, but doesn't necessarily mean there's one type of character that's funny. It just means somebody can make them laugh, somebody makes them feel safe, all the things that you've said. But it's really difficult to find, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's because people are too specific. It's like, don't set a goal, set an intention, and then be flexible and adaptable and accepting within that intention. Because if you can't be flexible within that intention and you're too rigid, then that's perfectionism and you may struggle to find what you're looking for. So I also think there has to be, and this is probably what you're doing more of, there has to be an ability to be able to teach each other without having to have 10-hour conversations about it.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you do that with any man? But say a man that's been really badly hurt as well, because we always think that men are really stoic and they get over things really easily, and
That's definitely not the case.
they move on to the next one
That
really
is
quickly.
1000% reversed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Tell me about
Sorry to
that.
cut you off.
No, but that's an experience you're going to see more of than the average man.
I think the average man is far more romantic than the average woman.
Yeah.
The average man gets hurt from breakups a lot more than the average woman.
Do they hide it more, do you think?
Well, who are they going to share it with?
Yeah.
Who are they going to share it with?
Yeah.
The average bloke is not going to. Again, this is what I said before, right? Like, if a guy had like erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation, is he going to go to his mates and talk about it? No, they're gonna rip him to shreds about it. They're gonna take the piss out of him for it.
Yeah.
If he's got his heart broken, okay, maybe if he's got his heart broken, he will have some good friends he can like console about it. But to be and rightfully so, I think eventually they should try to tell him to toughen the fuck up and get on with his life.
Yeah.
Which I think is the correct response from a man. Like, I don't actually believe in this idea of like for men especially, like that you need to like process your emotions and talk through things inherently. I don't know about the average guy, but for me, if something annoys me or pisses me off, or I don't like something, or if it's caused some kind of like pain, the last thing I want to do is constantly talk about it.
Yeah. That's too much.
Because it just keeps it in a loop. And I think,
well, you stay in it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think this is a problem that women have. Is that they do that. They pathologize their pain so much.
Yeah.
They just stay in it, and it becomes part of their identity.
No, that's so true. And we know that what we repeat, we become.
Yeah.
So I actually agree. And that's one of the reasons, although I am a talk therapist, I use EMDR and hypnotherapy and CBT and, some psychoanalysis and a mixture of modalities, because most men don't want to sit and talk for hours. They want solutions.
Men like action.
Yeah, they do.
And I think, and to be perfectly honest, the best way for men to get over a breakup is to hang around with other men and do man things.
Yeah. So why is that?
Because men don't want to sit there and pathologize and be in their cerebral, be in the emotion, their head all the time. They would rather take action.
I think that's
and
healthy.
Do something.
I think that's healthy, because when you're doing something that you enjoy, be it climbing a mountain, playing a game of pool, playing football, whatever it is, you're actually in the present moment.
Completely.
Which allows the rest of the brain to process anyway, doesn't it? So,
and it gives you and doing things that leads to a sense of accomplishment, which leads to self-esteem.
And confidence.
Which you have lost a significant portion of,
because
this person you fell in love with has abandoned you or told you you're not worthy of their love anymore.
So do you feel like a lot of men have lost that community of other men?
Completely. 100%.
Yeah.
We don't have men's groups anymore.
No.
They don't exist.
Yeah.
And in fact, every single one that was still around when I was a child has been infiltrated by women. The Boy Scouts now has women in it. Girls in it.
Yeah.
They're trying to show me a men's club.
Yeah.
They don't exist anymore.
Yeah. Well, the ones that do, certainly in the UK, are based around men's mental health rather than just clubs.
In Australia, it's not a relevant concept for England, but in Australia we had this thing called the men's shed.
Yeah.
And it was it was the concept around the men's shed was all these guys who are, basically retired, and maybe a lot of them widowers.
Yeah.
Right? They wanted someone to hang around with. So I believe it's every weekend or Sunday morning, they would get together and do woodworking together.
Oh, I love that.
And this has been going on since I was a child.
That's amazing.
But now they've insisted that women are allowed into this.
I don't agree with that, actually. I think we need the separation.
Which is completely. I agree with you. Men need man time, because men interact very differently when there's a woman in the room.
Yes.
Very differently.
Yeah.
Right? There's a reason why locker room talk is locker room talk.
Yeah.
Right? There's a reason why when the boys are on tour, like the rugby club goes on tour, there's a certain language. There's certain songs that are sung on the bus.
Yeah.
That that are obviously misogynistic,
Yeah.
but they're just for the boys.
Yeah.
They're a laugh. They're
Yeah.
not they're not serious. They're just having a joke.
Yeah.
But the moment you interject a woman into that scenario, the whole dynamic changes.
Yeah.
Because men actually don't want to offend women, surprisingly.
Yeah. No, I
The average
agree.
bloke doesn't want to like upset a woman.
Yeah.
And by virtue of her being in that same room, he has to change his language.
Yes.
And the dynamic then changes because there's going to be some guy in that room who wants to fuck her.
Yeah. And does that mean that men are then being false?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Yes. Men are only allowed to be their expressive self, to be who they really are as a man around other men.
Yeah.
They're not. There's no filter.
Yeah.
When they're around exclusively men in a men's only space, God, I hate this word, a safe space.
Yeah.
They're being authentic.
Yes.
Right. And if you think about it, if you're never allowed to be authentic, if every single time you're interacting with people, you have to put some kind of a filter on it.
Yeah.
Because there is a woman in the room.
Yeah.
Eventually, something's going to crack.
Yeah.
In your mentality, in your self-esteem, in your confidence. You can't speak, like most guys can't speak what they really think, what they really believe in public around other people.
Yeah.
Because most people in general are afraid of being, judged.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
Which is perfectly normal.
And we're all being watched more now, aren't we?
Completely,
so everything
yes.
we say is
you say the wrong thing on social media, your job's gone.
Yeah.
Your bank account's gone.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So this is why men need to have male-only spaces or male-only time.
I agree. I do. I think that's really important.
Women have that. Women have women-exclusive gyms. Women have women-exclusive clubs, organizations, and they should.
Yeah.
They completely should.
Yeah.
But we're having this distinction between male spaces and women's spaces is inherently necessary.
Yeah. And so bringing that back to the work that you do, so you're now dealing with, I mean, I said earlier, I'm 47, so I'm on the side of going towards 50. So things are very, very different from when I was growing up.
Oh, completely. Well, you're Gen X, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I was born in 1978,
yep.
a very long time ago. And so in the 80s, we were coming out of, a very different time. And things were changing rapidly. But it was still very much like some people didn't have a washing machine.
Yeah.
So some people were hand washing. I remember having black and white TV. That's how far away it was. And certainly I didn't even use the internet until I was 22. So I feel like I grew up in a time where I've got a real foot in this world, but in the old world as well.
Yes.
So there's a fair comparison you can make. I think the problem is that a lot of the sort of 25-year-olds, and we know that, and I was the same when I was 25, you think you know everything and you think you've got all the answers and that everybody else above the age of 35 is an idiot or really, really old. But I love having one foot in the old and one foot in the new, because you can say we are losing femininity and masculinity. I feel like I have to be my masculine a lot, in work. And I would agree that as a result of that, you crave someone being stronger than you and protecting you and looking after you.
This ties into exactly what I teach and why I teach it.
Yeah.
Why I'm teaching men to be dominant in the bedroom.
Because it's such a changed
because
time.
you come home from work as a woman.
Yeah.
You come home from working a 9-to-5 job. The last thing you want to do is to stay in your masculine.
Yes.
You want a place where you can let go.
Yeah.
Where you can turn that off.
Yeah.
And the only place you can really do that now is in the bedroom with your man.
Yeah.
But with the caveat of him leading you through that experience.
Yeah.
Because if he's taking control, leading, being dominant, whatever word label you want to put on this mode of him taking you in the bedroom, it's allowing you to switch off. It's allowing you to turn off the thinking, cerebral, logical brain and just feel.
Yeah. And that's being present. It's the same as what we were saying about men having their clubs.
Completely.
It's being able to go and play football and be in that zone of playing football or playing the game.
Men doing those things. That's why men love playing football, playing whatever, like playing their sports, because it is their version of meditation.
Yeah. No,
it's their version of being completely present in the moment and turning off their thinking brain. The physical activity. That's why guys love in the gym. That's why guys are playing sports. All these things. It's their version.
Yeah,
And
I
I
hear
think
that.
the women's version is being, well, not their exclusive, not the only one, but a big one is them being taken by their man in the bedroom.
And not having to think about anything.
Being safe and being able to turn that brain off
Yeah.
and just enjoy and feel that experience.
So on that note, what do we do? Because this is a common thing I'll hear from both men and women. I'd say my clients are 50-50. Men will say, my wife never wants to have sex with me.
Right.
And the woman will say, he expects me to have sex with him all the time. And so
to cut you off, please continue, but I think these are one and the same problem.
they are.
But continue.
And so I would ask you how you deal with, because obviously you're coaching the man, but how you deal with him allowing, because women and men go back to the primitive and the physical. Women obviously ovulate. There's a monthly cycle where she's more wanting sex than other times, where she's more tired and fatigued and yada, yada, yada. Whereas the man with his little sperm factory, I say little, it might not be little. I'm going to make an assumption here. But the man's constantly churning out. If I'm right in saying, I don't know if that's the correct way of putting it, but I think there is a difference in the way that
There's a consistency to the male sex drive.
Yes, that's probably the best way to put it. So how do you then coach the man to deal with, it's not rejection, it's just that she is genuinely not ready or wanting it?
Well, a good start is to actually track her cycle.
Yeah, I think you're right, 100%.
And understanding as a man, like that certain times of the month, she is going to be peak.
Yeah.
Like, what's also coincidentally, her peak fertility corresponds to her peak horniness.
Yeah, which is the way it's supposed to be.
Which is exactly what it's supposed to be. Yes, yes. And then the times outside of that, well, when she's at her least, well, when she's at her most grumpy, her most moody, maybe this is a good time to schedule in some bro time.
Yeah.
And as a woman, understanding that logically before you get into that period of your month, right? Like, agree to this beforehand.
Very, very good point.
Don't make that plan while she's at her peak frustration.
Yeah, that's where the conversation does need to happen. Not necessarily about where you touch each other in the bedroom, but more so about, I can be a really grumpy bitch when I'm due on my period.
And we both have this app on our phone which tracks the time of the month. Cool. So maybe this is when I should do my lad's weekend. Maybe this is when I should schedule in, a bros night or whatever, and she can do a girls night.
Yeah.
That strategic time apart,
yes,
actually, I think is super critical, because we weren't designed to be around each other 24/7. And this is where a lot of that dead bedroom comes from. Your man goes from being a lover to being a friend.
Well, a lot of girls feel like they're with their brother in the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because there's no time apart.
Yeah.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
But also people let themselves go. And I know this is a bit controversial, but a lot of couples, they don't look after themselves because they're so focused on the relationship and the family. They lose the individuality. They stop dressing up for each other. They stop going to the gym. They stop eating healthily. They stop having separate interests. All those things that you've covered.
Yeah.
And so they become less attractive to each other.
Completely, yeah. I think it does start with the guy, because the guy has to lead. I'll get some pushback on this, but it's the guy's job to lead the relationship, I fundamentally believe.
Yeah.
And so, okay, if you're going to lead the relationship, well, you should lead by example. Your wife or your girlfriend might have gotten out of shape and gotten fat, but have you gotten out of shape and fat?
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you the one thing that'll make your missus get in shape is you being attractive physically and having other women give you attention.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Jealousy jealousy, but as a side note, jealousy is a completely different emotion for men and women. Completely different.
I agree. And
Completely
that is
different.
fascinating, because it can be such a destructive thing, but it stems from the insecurity thing as well for women.
The way men feel jealousy is a feeling of betrayal.
Yeah.
Because I've invested in this woman and I'm not even raising her child.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's visceral, it's betrayal.
Yeah.
I think, and I'm not a woman, so correct me if I'm completely wrong, but I think the way that women will feel sexual jealousy, right? Like another woman giving attention to your man, is more of a feeling of competitiveness.
Yeah.
It's more of a feeling of like, oh shit, someone's going to take what I have.
And that can be really flattering as well.
It is flattering,
Yeah, because
but it might not feel like that. This ties into another thing I teach guys, which is that women need. I fundamentally believe that women need an emotional roller coaster. They need ups and downs.
well, yeah, it's like the ascent and the descent. You can't have one without the other, really.
Well, men would be most men would be perfectly happy with a relationship where it's just this flat line of emotion,
Right.
like always happy,
Yeah.
great. But women aren't happy with that.
No, we're
Because if you give a woman everything she wants, she gets bored.
yeah, and I think that is because there's a couple of reasons why we have that monthly cycle, so we're constantly changing.
Your life is a roller coaster
Correct.
innately,
Correct.
and
So
a man's hormonal cycle
correct.
is consistent.
Yeah.
So these two things mirror each other.
And that's where women are from. Sorry, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. The book. I don't know if you've ever read that.
I haven't read it.
I mean, there's a lot in there that's outdated and all of that stuff. And I read it decades ago. But there was so much in there that was true
Right.
about those tiny little things. We are very, very different creatures. And so I think when we go in, and I'm glad you've said that, when we go into a relationship and we expect the man to just understand or vice versa, we can't, because you might have been in a relationship before, but you might not have really understood each other before, hence the reason the relationship didn't work. And what I think you're offering, and we'll get into why in a minute, is saying, you do need to provide the roller coaster that she's living, but do it in a way that's healthy.
Yeah, well, I think the man needs to be in control of it.
Yeah.
Because what will happen, and men can relate to this experience more than anything else, is that if everything is happy and if everything is stable in a relationship, eventually your missus is going to make drama out of nowhere
Yeah.
because she needs it.
Mm.
That's what I'm trying to explain with this idea of the emotional roller coaster, like the ups and the downs.
Yeah.
She creates drama because there's just all up.
Yeah.
It's all positive emotion. She doesn't have any negative emotion in her system, and she needs it. So she creates drama, so you'll get angry, so she'll get that negative emotion. And so I think a better way, or actually a more positive way to actually instill that is to be an attractive man who other women pay attention to, and thus generates some degree of jealousy in your woman.
Mm.
Because that creates that negative ping, but it's a positive negative ping. It's a negative ping of, oh, I picked the right guy.
Yeah.
Because other women find him attractive.
Yeah.
So I've landed a good one.
Yeah.
And the way he does that is by looking after himself, staying in shape, working on his business, working on his income, not relaxing in a weird way of saying it, right? But that's also conversely why he needs that time around guys, around his bros, so he can actually take a break for every now and then. But this idea of constantly working on yourself and being someone who's constantly striving to be better, like it's a lot of work,
Yeah,
but
it is.
it is. You don't really have much choice as a guy. Your options are do that or go from situationship to situationship, where eventually your woman gets bored of you because you're not trying hard enough and tries to upgrade and find a better guy. Like, you don't really have much of an option, as far as I'm concerned, as a guy.
I agree. But to give some context, because the word drama came out then, and I think I can be a drama queen, like full on tantrums. But I'm going to say this because I know a lot of women will hear the word drama and they won't like it. I'm more comfortable with it because I can own it. But I think it's boredom, and if a woman is bored, she's resentful.
Yes.
And if she's resentful, she will maybe not always be able to articulate why, because perhaps she doesn't feel heard, because men aren't particularly good at hearing in that moment. They need a little bit more time to go off and do the golf or the snooker or the football, and it processes in the background.
Right.
But if you give a man, you did this and it really upset me, and this is my experience opinion from talking to people, again, because I sort of see 50-50, I hear the male perspective quite a lot. And it's actually been a huge privilege to have that, because it's made me a lot more broad. And I suppose you are the same. You have a broader perspective over the human experience. So what I'm about to say is based on lots of different people's experiences. But I find that if you avoid things like "you made me feel" for a start, because you're going to get a defense mechanism
Yeah.
from most people, male or female. So it's easier to say, look, I got this wound, and unintentionally you've triggered that wound. It wasn't your fault, but I'm letting you know that it's happened, and I need something to change because I'm bored. I'm starting to feel resentful. I'm not blaming you, but I'm saying this is something we need to think about. We need to change a few things. If you say that to most people, male or female, and say, look, I don't expect you to have the answer now. Go off and do what you need to do. We'll come back to it at another point. I just want to plant the seed.
Mm.
Then there doesn't need to be the drama. There doesn't need to be the resentfulness. It just needs to be a conversation. The problem is, and I had this growing up, because of my circumstances being within the home, the sexual abuse was my dad. My mum stayed with my dad. He went to prison, came back home. I wasn't heard. So when I got into relationships, I went from 0 to 100 very, very quickly. I mean, I joke about being a drama queen. I was a wild animal at
Right.
times. And so for the person on the receiving end of that, it's too much. So we need to teach men how to not be defensive. If it goes back to that point of hand on the chest and the woman has a wild reaction and he gets angry because he's like, I haven't done anything. I've just put
Right.
my hand on your
Right.
chest.
Right.
But what he doesn't know and what she hasn't been able to articulate as a
All
young
this other
woman.
stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah. And so this is the problem with relationships, is for particularly the younger ones. I mean, again, as you get older, you do your own self-work, however you choose to do that. You realize that you are the problem.
You become more introspective. Like
Yes, you do.
you're more self-aware.
You are more self-aware and you're more willing to be, because you realize that, that loop we spoke about earlier, I don't want to be in this loop anymore. It sucks.
Yeah.
So I want to find a better way of doing it. And I think the problem is with a lot of the relationship conversations is it takes both parties to be introspective sometimes and to be able to say, do you know what? I hear the way you've tried to frame that. I still feel a bit reactive,
Mm.
but I'm going to take some time because I don't want to hurt your feelings, and we will come back to this. And it's again the man leading it, because I think that's really important for the man to say, I do hear what you're trying to say. I need some time. I will come back to it. We will fix this. That for a woman is like, okay, I'll speak for myself. Magic.
Mm.
You don't need to be reactive or get into the fight flight response. You don't need to shout. You don't need to scream. You don't need to display drama, because he's led that situation and made that commitment to, let me take some time here. But the woman also needs to be able to be patient with that and say, I respect the fact that you need to take that time, as long as I know you're coming back to me with it. So yes, there needs to be leadership from the man, but there needs to be, I think he needs to be given the opportunity and given the baton to have that time to process so that he can be the leader.
Yeah, and that would require a large degree of self-awareness.
Yes.
From both sides, I think.
Yeah.
Which I think is, I think that's actually quite rare for people to.
Yeah.
I think your scenario is the ideal scenario,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, I think it's a rare one
And
where
that's
both parties have that degree of self-awareness.
and so how do you as a coach, as a mentor, get around that?
Well, that's why because I'm talking directly to the guy.
Yeah.
Right? I try not to put any expectations in the guy's head about what she should do or
Yeah.
say or be.
Yeah.
Right? Like, tiger got stripes. Accept women for the way they are.
Yeah.
Accept female nature as it usually is,
Mhm.
inherently,
Mhm.
generally is.
Mm.
Right? And so we have to work with that.
Yeah.
Rather than working with some ideal of what you think she should be or think she
Yes.
should, how
So
she
you
should
do
act.
come back away from that.
Yeah, because people get frustrated when their expectations don't match their reality.
They do, yeah. That's the biggest problem.
That's when you get frustrated,
Yeah.
right? That's when you get angry and emotional and butthurt or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You expect a certain outcome from a woman, right, or from your partner, your girlfriend, your wife, or whatever. You expect her to behave a certain way, and she doesn't behave that way.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing written in stone that says she has to behave the way you expected her to behave.
Yeah.
You know? And for men especially, because men, like we said before, men tend to be more logical in the
Yeah.
way they process things versus emotional. They're like expecting her to match his level of logic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that creates that frustration, which creates the breakdown of that communication between him and her.
So for you then, obviously the phone's ringing. Ignore that, everybody. Oh, they probably can't even hear it. For you though, I would ask this: how did you become the coach that you are, because you're teaching this stuff. You're saying, look, come away from the idealized version of the female, step into this sort of taking leadership and control. But you were just a boy once yourself. You went on this journey from a little bit hippie to the swingers clubs, to the escorting, to the porn industry, and then back out again.
Yeah.
So I know we haven't got all day, and I'm sure there's a lot of complex layers to that story, but I think it's really important for those that have heard you speak so far to understand where you've come from.
Well, it started off with frustration. This is why I think this is fundamentally why I'm a good teacher, is because I've been where most of my students are.
Yeah.
I came from a place of not understanding female nature.
Mhm.
I started off as a very frustrated young man, and I had to learn like all these basic fundamentals about male-female dynamics to get rid of that frustration.
Is that what led you into the swinging scene?
Yeah, to a large degree, yes. Yes,
So it's an unusual way to learn.
well, it was also kind of like a lazy way to learn too, because it's like, you don't have to go on a date with a woman to learn about her sexually.
But you've got to have a lot of courage. How old were you when you went into that?
Probably like I think maybe early 20s, 22, 3, 4, somewhere around there.
I mean, was there a lot of other young people in that scene?
I was probably more on the younger side of things. Yeah,
was
most
gonna
people in
say,
that scene were like in their 30s at least.
So you were
Yeah.
getting, I mean, a very different insight.
Very much so, yes.
And so what?
Getting a very quick education.
How did you go? Right. I'm just thinking about this as a decision-making thing. Right.
There wasn't a lot of decision making going on.
No, I'm thinking about this. So there's a young boy, because I think of that age, I shouldn't say boy, but a young man going, right, I'm really frustrated. I don't get it. I know. I'm going to go into the swingers
The way
parties.
in. Well, there was a whole process before that, which was online forums of men's self-help groups, of men's dating groups,
So
learning
you went through that.
all that whole process of learning how to go out into clubs and talk to women, learning how that works, learning how to seduce a woman, learning how to take a woman on a date, how to make a successful date, all these things, and then it sort of just led to this just giant curiosity around the female form and the female experience. Led me down that path of where I just nerded out on sexuality and sex in general.
So the hippie in you and the nerd in you just
Combined,
diverted,
coalesced to create
and went
this
from chemistry to sex.
Well, that was more of a side, like the curiosity was a side project, a nighttime thing when I was 9 to 5 working in a lab, and then behind the scenes, my brain's like, why do women like this? Why do they like that?
Why did that come? Why do you think you were so curious?
I think it just came from a point of frustration as a young man, like a younger man, 18, 19, 20,
Do
whatever.
boys do that? I think about.
I think the vast majority of men do have a degree of frustration when it comes to understanding female nature. Yes. Do they take it to the autistic length that I took it to? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, you took it far, but it's okay because it's taking you to where you are now.
Well, it's taking me to a point where I feel like I can actually help people with it.
Yeah, well, that's obviously what your master plan was. I'm not saying that it was a conscious master plan, but if God or the universe or whatever had a plan for you, this seems to be it.
It seems to have worked out.
Yeah, it does, and I think it's clear that your brain was designed to go down that road. But did you have sisters or anything like that?
Yep, older sister. Yeah.
You did? Now that surprises me because often when how old?
But she's 7 years older than me.
Oh, okay, so there was quite a big gap.
There's a big gap. It wasn't a
because if you've got a sister close in age, you tend to have a different perspective on women, I guess.
Very much so, and I've seen that in a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, of course you would, because it's the relational dynamics, isn't it?
Very much
so. Okay, so you go down your little...
I was effectively more or less raised as an only child. My brother's 10 years older than my sister's 7 years older.
Yeah,
so they were out of the house. When I'm going through puberty, they're out of the house.
Yeah, so you're on your own.
Really. Yeah, so it's yes, I have a brother and a sister, but in that very formative time of life, puberty, like I'm effectively an only child.
Yeah, of course, that makes sense. They're more like sort of young uncles and aunties.
They're more like an uncle or an auntie.
So you're having to navigate a lot on your own. And probably as the youngest, there's a lot of psychology that comes with being the youngest, the baby of the family and all of those things.
I like to think I'm quite self-aware. So I do think about these things. The psychology that led me to where I am today.
Well,
and it's not like ashamed of where I've come from, what I've done.
No,
Like, it's not like a pain point either.
no,
It's not like I'm, yeah, bitter or butthurt about
yeah,
the journey,
yeah,
you know? Maybe at one point, and when I was like younger and frustrated, definitely. But that's another big thing is like I want to help guys get over that
mm,
feeling of frustration. Because what ends up happening if a guy, the average male experience now is he is bombarded with this notion of how women should be.
yes,
For my generation, it was sitcoms like Friends,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
This is how men and women like this is how women are. They respond to these things. Like the Ross Gellers of the world end
yeah,
up with the hot blonde
yeah.
by being a bumbling buffoon who's self-conscious
I loved
and
Ross.
okay, well that guy does not get laid.
No,
In the real
in the
world,
real
he
world.
does not get the girl,
Yeah,
you know? And so it's a bit of a dated reference, but that's kind of still perpetuated
yeah,
for the next two generations. It's
yeah,
still going on,
yeah,
where men are raised on this perception of what they think women should be. But then
yeah,
reality is over here, and it's completely different. What
mm,
women actually respond to, what they're actually attracted to, is
yeah,
a very different thing.
yeah,
And that creates a lot of frustration in
yeah,
young men,
yeah,
sexual frustration
yeah,
in young men.
yeah,
And I'm trying to get rid of that,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
that frustration around like we talked about before, expectation and reality.
mhm.
Like, because if you don't, then what ends up happening is you have a generation of young men who are just bitter and resentful at women, and they don't even understand why they're bitter and resentful at women. Got no clue why they're, because in their mind, like women should be behaving a certain way, but they don't, and so they spend their whole life angry at women when they shouldn't be. There's no need for them to be angry at women if they just accept female nature for what it is and understand it and learn to navigate it better.
Would it be fair to say, and you don't have to agree with this if this is too difficult, would it be fair to say that you are a healthier version of the Andrew Tate type guy?
I'm not going to make any kind of comparison like that.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I feel that. I feel that because I feel
I have a
that
very different approach to Andrew.
yes,
Andrew has a very Andrew's approach is obviously a very successful one
yeah,
because he's a massive audience,
yeah.
but his approach is more in your face, and it's
It feels more aggressive.
it's obviously aggressive, but
Yeah,
it's not maybe not as empathetic as my approach.
I certainly
It's
don't think
more
it's empathetic.
here's why like it's more his approach taps into the competitive nature of men,
Yes,
right? It's I have something you don't have.
yeah.
Here's why I'm better than you. This should piss you off and make you work harder. That is effectively the
But the
way he
problem
teaches.
is that the boys that are frustrated and angry. This is why I made the reference to you being a healthier approach. Because I think the word dominance, again, we've unpacked that, but I think the dominant leadership, empathetic approach is probably the nice middle ground.
Well, it's not as effective though because I don't have as big of an audience as Sandra does.
Well, it's not as effective in terms of maybe likes, shares, monetization. I'm sure it's effective enough for you. But what it is probably more effective for is actually helping people. Because what I feel is the boys that are frustrated and angry are potentially, they might be making shitloads of money, but in terms of their relational skills, in terms of interpersonal skills, in terms of healthy relationships, and in terms of positive psychology within relationships, I'm not sure that Andrew Tate is doing much there. I'm not saying he hasn't got some good points if you know him in
I would
person.
disagree. I think just because I know young men who
Yeah,
have followed him
yeah,
and take like a lot of his advice and they consume a lot more of his long form material.
yeah,
I know guys who've, basically grown up with the guy
yeah.
and they're all extremely well adjusted men. Like they're not, it's, your bitterness will quickly dissolve once you start having some self confidence and self esteem.
Why do we hear just such a? This isn't about Andrew Tate, but I just on this point because if I don't ask these questions and if I don't make that comparison, I wouldn't be doing my job. So I have to ask. Why do you think then that what the majority of us see, and I get that a lot of it is cut up And I've been in this position where I've said something and it's been cut up and it looks really controversial, and it actually isn't. So I know how it works. But some of what he said, you can't force someone to say some of the things of what he said, and some of it is disgraceful.
He also does that. Andrew is an expert in outrage marketing.
I mean, yeah, he is. But then for the boys that aren't getting the long form and maybe aren't getting the context, that's dangerous.
Yeah, but I think the intention is to get you sucked into the funnel.
Mm.
Whereas, like, if you're engaging with that piece of content, you're eventually going to engage with another piece of content, and then another, and then another, and then another.
But then for the thousands, perhaps millions that don't, it leaves a big gap.
Yeah, but I don't think what he says is any more dangerous than what mainstream media talks about. I'm being perfectly honest.
If fathers, brothers, men in the community were doing a better job at circling around their boys and their, I say men, fathers, brothers, all of this. Society has taken away all of the youth clubs, and we spoke about this, all of the boys clubs, all of the things. They haven't got that leader anymore.
Unfortunately, that father is busy trying to pay a mortgage.
Yeah, exactly. And that is a societal issue. It's not an individualistic thing.
It's actually in a roundabout way of looking at it, that issue and the male-female dynamic issue is actually more of a money issue than
it is.
anything else.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely
The
right.
money's funny.
Yeah.
Fiat currency is a Ponzi
Well, it goes
scheme.
back to Sex at Dawn, actually, because he goes through the different stages of sex through the ages, doesn't he? Essentially, looks at agriculture and how it changes then. And so it's a really good book for people to read, actually, if they're interested. But the breakdown of society then, because of the bigger picture, let's call it what it is, government's money, all of that stuff, which we would go down a huge rabbit hole if we went there. But the breakdown of society means that boys don't have a leader, so they're more attracted to the people that stand out, and Andrew does stand out. And I have to say this as well, because I'm not stupid. I've got people that I know, who shall remain nameless, who I hate their social media. I hate how they come across on social media. It makes me cringe and go, God, that's just not who they are. And if you know them in person, you're like, they're really lovely people with loads of layers and complexity and nuance and all those things that are really important. And if you don't know them, you don't know them. So I know what you're saying. Yeah. But again, because you're in this space, that must come up fairly often.
All the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
Does it make you really sick?
Do you make me sick? Just I'm used to it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's expected.
Yes, yeah. But it must bore you to tears.
It's boring, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
But yeah,
entertain me. So.
Yeah, no, but it's true. It's going to be that. But I feel maybe it's just this conversation, because I did make the point to you earlier on. I'd only ever seen you with Liam. I didn't want to watch any of the other podcasts because I think you can end up thinking, "Oh God, well he's already said that, so I don't want to ask that question." It puts you off. No,
we've had a very unique conversation.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad. I'm glad that you feel that way. Hopefully unique in a good way.
In a good way, yes, in a very positive way.
Because unique could be seen as good or bad. But your experience in the porn industry, as a sort of closing chapter, as a young man, having high-end women pay for you, that must be a bit of a confidence boost.
Definitely, yes.
Where did you go from being the guy that was in the swinging clubs to being the man that went, I'm going to make some money out of this stuff. This is good.
Well, there was women in that industry. Well, sorry, women in the swinging scene rather, who were doing that already.
So they were already paying for it.
Well, no, they were escorts themselves, and they literally, I think about 3 different occasions over the course of a year, those women tell me I should do this. I'd be good at it.
So they were in the swinging clubs, and then they wanted to do it to earn.
No, they were swimming. They were swingers in their civilian life, but they were professional escorts.
Got you.
And they turned around to me and were like, "You should probably do this."
And so you thought, why not?
After enough convincing, I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll give it."
Were you nervous?
Oh, terrified. Yeah.
Because that first time.
Absolutely petrified the first time. Yeah.
Oh, you must just be thinking, what am I doing?
You don't know what you're doing.
No.
So you're trying to pretend like you do know what you're doing.
Yeah. Again, it comes to that practice because you're being paid a significant amount of money, I'm sure, and you now have to behave in a way that is worth the money.
Yeah, which is actually not as hard as you'd think. It's more about it's kind of a thought going through your head. What would James Bond do? How would James Bond act in this moment? Like
Wow.
how charming? How would he charm her? How would he be charming? It was kind of these. Wasn't exactly that, but these are the kind of thoughts that were going through my head at least for the first few times
And
before
then,
it became like habitual.
so did you have an alter ego?
I wouldn't say alter ego, but it was more like
Were you
something
being
in my head.
yourself?
Something in. I was being myself 100%, but it was also like a projecting my best self without any of the insecurities or hang-ups that I might have had outside of that scenario. It's like, well, this is project the version of you that is the most attractive. It's kind of like the mantra that was constantly going through the head.
That must then become, because we
Well, that became habit
I
on
was going to
on
say,
every
yeah.
date. After
So
that point.
even now, surely some of that remains, that you've
Well,
trained
it's a
yourself.
habit. It's a habit
Yeah,
more than being conscious. Yeah,
because repetition is recognition.
exactly. Yeah.
You spoke about the identity earlier, about people getting stuck in their pain
Mm.
and they're becoming the victim, and that becoming their identity. Well, your formative training, as it were, was to be the best version of yourself. So that becomes the recognized pattern and wiring in the brain.
Right.
That becomes your temperament, your personality. So now, would you say that you are the escort in
No,
everyday world?
because I was. The difference is that then I'm not having any like selectivity.
Yes.
You know, there's nothing. I'm not wanting anything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
there's nothing she can do that's wrong.
Yes.
You know, whereas I have in my personal, I actually have standards.
Right.
You know,
Got you.
I have certain things that I want from a partner.
And without being rude, were there women that were paying for you that you weren't quite happy with?
Yes,
So you had
absolutely,
to go through
absolutely.
that
You
experience.
just
Think of Australia.
think of the Queen and
It's an interesting one. I mean, that must be really hard.
Yeah.
Mind the pen. That must be really hard.
difficult. Yeah.
You have to really switch into a different mode.
Well, the key, and this is something that this is something that I actually did take from that experience, and I teach guys, and I definitely used in my porn career and stuff. And it's the idea of finding. You can always find something beautiful about any woman,
Ah.
but it's like. And I don't mean that in like a condescending, creepy,
No, but it's nice. It's nice to,
mushy way. But
yeah.
it's like there's always something,
Yeah.
you know. And it's because what you give attention to is what kind of grows in your mind. Like where your focus goes is what has more power. So it's like, okay, well, is she an older woman? Okay, well, am I going to focus on like her crow's feet, or am I going to focus on her smile, her eye contact, her whatever, like the way she dresses really nicely? What am I going to focus on? That's the key there.
Yeah.
To keeping me in that space where there's actually some genuine attraction there.
Yeah.
Versus discarding like everything because of some imperfection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm just thinking, I don't know if I could do that.
Most people can't.
Yeah, that's what makes you different, is that you're able to rise above those automatic thoughts.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, override like maybe what might be instinctual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that for the money, or was that because you wanted to do that?
Well, I had to do that.
Yeah.
In that particular situation, I had to let her do that. Yeah.
Would you do that now?
But I feel like I feel like a part of me was already. It came kind of naturally. I feel like a part of me was already there. Like the idea of looking for the best in a woman if I'm with her. Like that was
Where
kind
does
of.
that come
It
from?
wasn't that hard. Like it was already kind of there.
But
I don't know. Maybe it's empathy. I don't know.
Is it about the relationship with your mother by
Maybe
any chance?
Nah.
I'm going a bit Freudian here.
I don't. My mother is not what anyone would expect her to be like.
Really?
Yeah.
We won't go. I can see that there's a resistance, so I will stop right there.
No, it's not. I just don't really talk about it.
No.
She's passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Okay.
But often the ability to rise above the sort of physical, if you like, and go into that, well, has she got a nice smile, or is she full of wisdom, is she interesting, has she done something good in her life that's attractive? That is a skill that you learn from being respectful to women. But I mean, not necessarily then being the escort or whatever, But it's the ability to rise above that, again, that instinctual response, and just be broader in your thinking. So that often does come from your, formative relationships with your caregivers,
Maybe
to be able to do that. But then you go into the porn industry, because obviously that's the natural progression. How long were you in that role?
5 years.
And then you said earlier you became disheartened with it.
Yeah, it was over the course of like probably the last year of being in that industry, it was very clear how misandrist it was.
Right.
Exceptionally misandrist. And just so it wasn't all at once. It was just like one little experience after another little experience, again and again and again over the course of like a year, just seeing that again and again. And then hearing the way that female porn stars would talk about other male co-stars and talk about their fans.
Right.
I'm like, these women really do not like men.
So do you think
at
there
all.
was a lot of broken women in that industry?
You know what's funny is that's the stereotype. I'd be lying if I said it was more than half.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of women who just end up in that industry because.
Yeah.
There's not like the stereotype is, and obviously they have done studies on this where they're taking like the average like Californian woman versus and comparing things to porn stars. They do have a higher rate of coming from an adopted family.
Yeah.
They do have a higher rate of being sexually abused.
Yeah.
They do have a higher rate of being impoverished.
Yeah.
But it's not like 100% correlation.
No.
It's so. And that wasn't the case from the women I knew more about than, the fact that they're just a porn star, if I get to know them.
Yeah.
It's not 100%. And if like I said, if I'm being honest, it's probably like maybe less than half.
So
come from these sort of stereotypical broken or damaged backgrounds that people would usually attribute to being a female porn star.
So why do you think there was such a bad relationship with those particular women that you're referencing there?
Well, I think the industry produced it.
Yeah.
Like, because there was girls that I'd seen come into it as, let's say, just say like bubbly nymphomaniac types.
Yeah.
Who are just women with an extremely high sex drive.
Yeah.
Right. And then through the core, and then over the next like 2-3 years, they turn into like rabid man-hating feminists. And there's nothing inherent with their interactions on a daily basis with like the directors or the assistants on set or the male porn stars themselves, at least, who are like making them hate men. It's this pervasive, like really hyper feminist doctrine that's just shilled down everyone's throats, especially in California.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's kind of ironic because a lot of women who would identify as feminists outside of the porn industry would balk at the idea of a female porn star being a feminist.
Yeah.
Because they're like, "What do you mean you're a feminist? It's degrading to women."
Yeah.
But the porn star would be like, "No, I'm sexually liberated."
Yes. Right.
Yeah. So it's this real. It doesn't make any. There's no consistency with the ideology at all.
No, I agree.
Or the only consistency, rather, is that it is very misandrist, in my opinion.
I think when it gets extreme, it's a problem. You can have some basic core values.
Yeah, but it's, again, this is in this context we're talking about here within the porn industry. It's just
toxic.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. So there was that initially. Then there was a combination of things. It was COVID happened. And
of course, yeah.
It stopped not shooting for several months. It's like, okay, well, what else can I do? I can talk to people. I can watching a lot of people on YouTube, learning how that works, and then diving in, offering my advice here and there, and that sort of just snowballed into where I'm at now. And it wasn't really like a fully planned out thing. It was more organic. It just sort of happened the way it happened, I guess.
But I kind of like where you've landed with it all, because you've got these different experiences of sex, different if we're going to call them compartments that you've jumped into, all within an industry.
Yes.
So the experience you've had is on paper vastly different to most men.
A lot more different.
Yeah, which makes you a very different character.
Very unique in my experiences.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, being from swinging to escorting to porn. And then obviously my personal life.
Yeah.
All 4 of those scenarios are completely different from one another.
Yeah.
In terms of, the pressure, the level of intimacy, the level of like actual connection there is with a woman. You know, it's
Yes.
all very, very different.
Yeah. And then to be able to package that in a way which is, I feel, and not everyone will agree with me, but I feel that what you're actually trying to do is say it's okay to be masculine, it's okay to be a leader, it's okay to be dominant, but it needs to be done within the, going back to the sub-dom dynamics, which is widely misunderstood.
Yes.
Going back to the safety and the boundaries and all of those really important things, but also about, I guess, enjoyment at the end of the day, because sex is now spoken about, I think, because of the way that we, going back to the Andrew Tate conversation and the Bonnie Blue thing, the way things are cut up and pushed out by the algorithm, and the things that we see around sex are very worrying. We've got AI and all these different things, and I feel personally that it's what we were saying about monogamous society and the stability of that. It goes back to, the family unit and making sure that healthy conversations are being had within the family, and that the parents are actually involved in bringing up their children and monitoring their use on devices and monitoring what they're doing and who they're talking to and what they're seeing, and being I guess, as a parent myself, risk assessing and then having those really important conversations, so that as the younger people go into the world of the internet and social media, they have got some moral grounding and some foundations. And that's why I brought up your relationship with your mum or your parents, because on paper, people probably wouldn't think that straight away because of the jobs that you've
Okay,
done.
I'll give you one real understandable psychological insight into that,
Okay.
into my relationship with my parents versus and how that relates to sexuality.
Yeah.
Is that sex was never talked about
Right.
in my house.
Okay.
So it became this thing that I hyperfixated on because it became so taboo.
Yes. That makes sense.
I never even saw my parents kiss.
Yeah.
Like there was a massive lack of like they absolutely loved each other.
Yeah.
And I know this with certainty.
Yeah.
But there was no physical intimacy expressed in front of the kids.
Yeah.
You know, maybe like a kiss on the cheek
Yes.
was about the extreme I ever saw.
Yeah.
Which because there was no exposure to, I mean, this is me psychoanalyzing myself, right? Because there was no exposure to like male-female intimacy at all,
Mm.
like, learning from my parents, like how do a happy, healthy couple relate to each other intimately?
Yeah.
Not that I expected to go further than just kissing,
Of
right?
course.
But it's just like, okay, well, there's nothing. But
Yeah.
I want to do naughty things to the women
Yeah.
that I know from school or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like I'm 16 and now I'm starting to go into puberty, and it's like, well, what does that mean?
Yes.
So it creates this really deep fascination.
Yeah.
At least on my end, it created this very deep fascination with understanding what sex is and how it
Yeah.
works and how the female body works and how female psychology works.
Yes.
So and you see this a lot with, if there is one thing that a pattern I did notice, it was, amongst porn stars, both male and female porn stars, it was this idea of like sexual repression
Yeah.
from their parents.
Yeah.
And it just has this elastic rebound effect
Yeah.
on kids, I think.
Yeah.
And but the opposite is also not correct. The opposite of being of extreme perversion is obviously not correct.
Yeah.
So like you said, there is a middle ground somewhere
Yeah.
where you can't make sex so taboo that it becomes exciting.
Correct. You've got to be able to have those
You
conversations
have
at
to,
the very least.
normalize it.
Yeah, you do.
And I don't mean normalize it in the modernity context where it's just shoved in your face every second of every day.
Yeah.
I don't mean that when I say normalize sex. I mean make it like understandable and relatable. It's like, have a conversation, like kiss your wife in front of your kids, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Show a little bit of like romance,
Affection and love.
affection and romance, like,
yeah.
and then let them have your kids understand, like, okay, you're gonna go through puberty. This is what's gonna happen. Like, you're gonna be into boys and girls or whatever, right? And it's like, cool. Like,
You have to do that.
yeah, because if you make it too taboo, like, not to pick on like Catholics, but there was a lot of guys that guys that I grew up with, or guys and girls I grew up and went to college with, like the ones who were like, yeah, like they went to like the Catholic school, where it was heavily repressed. They ended up becoming like the pretty big sexual deviants.
Yeah.
That's coming from me, who's obviously the ultimate sexual deviant,
Yeah.
right? But that was also the same case with people who were in porn.
Yeah.
Lots of Mormons, lots of there
Yeah.
were sons of preachers, like all these kinds of things, and it's like, huh. Well,
It's
there's something
interesting.
wrong. Something their intention screwed up, obviously,
Yeah.
because that's not where I know that's not where they wanted the kid to be.
Yeah.
So there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
No,
that's interesting.
and I don't know if I obviously don't know the correct answer to give to anyone who's got kids or whatever. I'm just gonna give you some perspective from what I've seen and what I've been through, and it's like, and the people I've seen in my industry and stuff, and it's like this idea of hyper suppressing, like especially making it taboo for teenagers, is just never going to work, because teenagers innately rebel.
And they can find it all very, very quickly within a split second now.
Well, that too, but it's more like anything that you make anything that you make taboo for a teenager, they are going to rebel against you. It's going to make it cool. Anything. I don't care if it's sex, anything.
No, you're right.
It becomes cool.
Yeah.
It's another reason why Andrew's so popular.
Yeah.
Is because the entire UK media has turned him into the devil.
Yeah.
And they've made him cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like this is what happened. How people can't have this basic understanding of like teenage psychology baffles me. Yeah. If I can understand it, and who the fuck am I? But I get it.
Well, because you were there. I think that's your experience.
But it's also just like, yeah, anyone with two eyes, I think, can see that if you make any particular thing super taboo for a teenager, they're going to want to do more of it.
They are. And you know, one of the things that I think is really important about what's happening in the world right now is that there's no avoiding these subjects anymore.
No.
We have to talk about it.
It's in everyone's face. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so in your face. But I do think it goes back down to the family. I do think there's so many parents that expect everybody else to look after their children. And I know what you said about everyone's got to work. I work ridiculous hours. We spoke about this before we started to record. You know, all the different things that you and I will do. And I know that there have been times when I haven't been as present as a parent as I would want to be, but that doesn't mean that I haven't made up for that where I could. I'm not making any claims here that I'm the greatest parent in the world, because I'm not, and I'm definitely could have done better in many ways. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that I've never expected anybody else to instill certain moral standards and to have the difficult conversations. That is on the family. And
Completely.
I think it's exactly what you say. If it's not available, the information, and it's hidden, or it's secretive, or it's repressed, the child, and now the child could be 6 looking for that information, because he's got an older brother that's 12 and he's heard his older brother talking to his mates. He's like, oh, what's this? Goes onto YouTube or whatever, finds really explicit material in a way that his brain has no capacity to be able to organize or do anything with. He's just going to be getting this very strong visceral reaction. By the time he's 13, you know, he's no longer turned on by what would be considered normal. So, and that's why I reference that I think there's nothing wrong with opposites, you know, feminine, masculine, up, down, all of these things. I think that it's how it's delivered. And this conversation, I feel you've been able to deliver the information in a way that makes sense in a space that often doesn't.
I hope so.
Yeah, I feel that. And I feel that that's not an easy task to do, because there's always someone that's got an opinion that's in the opposite to what you hold. So it's difficult to be able to be heard, I think. But I appreciate, because what people don't know is you live in Australia, don't you?
Yeah.
Have you travelled from Australia? Not just for me, because I know you'll be doing other things, but
this trip around I have, yes.
Yeah, so you've come a long way.
But I spent a lot of time in America. I've spent a lot of time in Europe recently. I'm kind of a bit of everywhere.
You're everywhere. But you do this is your thing. You talk about these things a lot, don't you? And I know that's for business reasons, but also it can become tedious. I know I've done a few myself where you're repeating the same information. So I fully appreciate and respect the fact that you've given me your time today. And I want to say this before we finish. You're really organised, because we had this conversation last year, or was it the beginning of this year? I can't remember now.
Beginning of this, March.
Yes, feels like last year. And you got in contact to say you were coming back to the UK, and you'd remembered. And I really, really appreciated that, because so many people don't remember now. Everything's so fast paced.
Yeah.
They don't collate information. They don't remember.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you giving your time.
I appreciate you being very easy to work with.
Oh, thank you. I know there was a few questions that were difficult, I'm sure. But we have to go there.
Good.
And if Andrew Tate is listening, which I'm sure he's not, he's far too busy doing other things. Hopefully there's been enough of a breakdown there that isn't going to either upset the listeners or upset anybody else. So I think we have to break it down a bit more, don't we? We can't just take everything at face value. So thank you for everything today. And where can people find you?
StirlingCooper.com is the one-stop shop where you can find everything. Go on to YouTube, you can look for Stirling Cooper on YouTube. I'm the first thing that comes up. Same on Google actually. Same on Instagram, Stirling Cooper, and Twitter is Stirling Wisdom.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Stirling. Appreciate it.